The Great Northern War raged for over 2 decades, reshaping Northern Europe. The Swedish Empire clashed with Russia, Denmark, Norway and Poland. King Charles XII of Sweden led his Carolean army to stunning victories. Known as the Lion of the North, his campaigns were marked by daring maneuvers. However, the war became a test of endurance. The true turning point lay in a Russian winter. The year is 1709. The Battle of Poltava, fought on a scorching summer day in June, would decide the fate of empires. In our timeline, the battle ended in a catastrophic Swedish defeat, shattering Charles XII's aura of invincibility. But what if the outcome had been different? What if the Lion of the North had roared triumphant on that fateful day? Imagine Charles XII achieving a decisive victory at Poltava. The Russian army, weakened and demoralized, breaks and flees. Tsar Peter narrowly escapes capture. The defeat sends shockwaves through Russia. The fledgling Russian army is shattered. The myth of Russian invincibility is broken. The news reaches Moscow, sowing panic and dissent. Peter faces calls for his removal from the throne. With Russia reeling from the defeat at Poltava, Charles seizes the initiative. He presses his advantage, driving deep into Russian territory, his armies living off the land and leaving a trail of scorched earth in their wake. The Swedish king, ever the gambler, senses an opportunity to deliver a knockout blow to his wounded foe. Meanwhile, news of the Swedish victory spreads like wildfire across Europe. The courts of Vienna, Paris and London are abuzz with speculation about the shifting balance of power. Diplomats scramble to reassess their alliances while military strategists pore over maps, recalculating the odds of war. The Swedish Empire, once seen as a regional power, now stands poised to dominate Northern Europe and exert its influence on the continent. Sweden, emboldened by its triumph, dictates harsh peace terms on its defeated enemies. Russia, forced to cede vast swathes of territory, including the strategically vital city of St. Petersburg, is relegated to the status of a second-rate power. The dream of a Russian empire with a warm water port on the Baltic is extinguished, perhaps for centuries to come. The defeat at Poltava and the subsequent humiliation of Russia leave an indelible mark on Peter the Great. The once ambitious and energetic Tsar, his dreams of modernization and Europeanization shattered, becomes a shadow of his former self. Haunted by the spectre of Swedish might, he descends into paranoia and suspicion, his reign marked by internal repression and a retreat from his ambitious reform agenda. Without the impetus of war and the pressure to compete with Sweden, Russia stagnates. Peter's ambitious reforms, which in our timeline transformed Russia into a major European power, are either abandoned or implemented only half-heartedly. Russia, deprived of its window to the west, remains mired in a semi-feudal state, its vast potential untapped. The consequences of a Swedish victory extend far beyond Russia. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, already weakened by internal divisions and external pressures, is further fragmented and reduced to a vassal state of the Swedish Empire. The Baltic Sea becomes, for all intents and purposes, a Swedish lake, with Sweden controlling the vital trade routes and reaping the economic benefits. Even in victory, there are challenges. The Swedish Empire is stretched thin. Its small population struggles to maintain vast territories. Charles faces internal tensions and external threats. Conquered populations yearn for independence. Rebellions in Poland, Lithuania and the Baltic drain resources. High taxes strain the Swedish economy. Europe views Swedish hegemony with suspicion. England seeks to contain Sweden's influence. In this alternate 18th century, alliances shift as European powers adjust to a world where Sweden stands astride Northern Europe. England, seeking to counterbalance Swedish power, forms closer ties with France, its traditional rival. The Habsburg Empire, wary of Swedish ambitions in northern Germany, strengthens its defences and seeks alliances with other German states. The War of the Spanish Succession, a pivotal conflict in European history, unfolds differently in this altered timeline. Without the distraction of the Great Northern War, Sweden throws its weight behind its preferred candidate, potentially tipping the scales of the conflict. and reshaping the map of Western Europe. The rise of Prussia, a major power in our timeline, is also affected by the ripple effects of a Swedish victory. Without the opportunity to seize territories from a weakened Sweden, Prussia's expansionist ambitions are curtailed. The balance of power in Central Europe remains in flux, potentially delaying or even preventing the rise of a unified German state. The long-term implications of a Swedish victory in the Great Northern War are far-reaching and profound. The 18th century, instead of being a period of Russian ascendance, becomes the Swedish century, an era marked by Swedish dominance in Northern and Eastern Europe. However, the challenges of maintaining such a vast empire eventually take their toll. Sweden, despite its best efforts, struggles to maintain its grip on its far-flung possessions. Rebellions, economic woes, and constant pressure from its rivals gradually erode Swedish power. The Swedish century, much like the empires that preceded it, proves to be a fleeting moment of glory. The Industrial Revolution, which began in England in the late 18th century, arrives later in a Sweden preoccupied with maintaining its continental empire. Without the economic and technological dynamism fueled by industrialization, Sweden finds it increasingly difficult to compete with other European powers in the 19th century. As the 19th century unfolds, the geopolitical landscape of Europe is shaped by a Swedish victory in the Great Northern War. Nationalism fuels independence movements within the Swedish Empire. Poland, Finland, and the Baltic states agitate for self-determination. The Crimean War unfolds differently in this alternate history. Sweden, wary of Russia, might find itself embroiled in the conflict. The seeds of the First World War are influenced by the Great Northern War. Sweden, its empire gone but its identity intact, might be drawn into the maelstrom. The hypothetical scenario of a Swedish victory in the Great Northern War offers a fascinating glimpse into the complexities of historical causality and the enduring power of what-if questions. It underscores the contingent nature of history, where seemingly minor events or decisions can have far-reaching and unforeseen consequences. Ultimately, the exercise of imagining alternate histories is not merely a matter of counterfactual speculation. It is, at its core, a way of deepening our understanding of the past, of appreciating the forces that have shaped our present, and of pondering the infinite possibilities of the human story. The Great Northern War, regardless of its outcome, stands as a reminder of the human capacity for both extraordinary achievement and utter destruction. It is a testament to the enduring power of ambition, the fickle nature of fate, and the enduring legacy of the past on the world we inhabit today.